All right. I think we should be live. I'm here with two of the founders of Iota today, and we're having an AMA. Anyone that wants to throw us a question, you can go to coinmarketcap.com/chats/AMA, or you can go to YouTube or to our Twitter. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Although we'll probably already know you, and then I go through questions. All right.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our video AMA on CoinMarketCap. I'm Dominik. I'm one of the co-founders of Iota. I'm right now in rainy Berlin and excited to hear about your questions.
Yeah, and I'm David from Norway. It's actually snowing and raining here, so I got you beat on the worst weather. Yeah, one of the founders of Iota and the Iota Foundation, and excited to answer your questions here today.
All right, so I'm just going to be going through, reading some of the ones that catch my eye, and we'll just get started. So someone named David Seraph asked on YouTube, how will you guys celebrate the very moment the coordinator is shut down? Live stream event, fireworks show, shaving beards. Kind regards.
Okay, yeah, so it would actually be interesting or fun to shave the beard for Coordicide. It would make sense due to all the jokes we've had about it. But in a serious matter, I do hope that by the time we're able to celebrate that COVID will be under control, so we can have a huge community gathering together with the Iota Foundation, and then turn off the coordinator together in a live event.
Yeah. No, I can definitely second that. I think it would be really great to actually do a huge community event where we can really celebrate our successes. And I think one of the worst things about having a very distributed team is that you achieve something great, and because you're just sitting in front of your computer and you achieved it, you're like, oh yeah, great, that happened, right? And I think with something as big as Coordicide, we definitely need to think about a different way of celebrating that. So doing a big community event is definitely something we are going to aim for that.
So now going back in time a little bit, someone else, SH David, asked, some time ago you stated that Coordicide is definitely going to happen in 2021. Is this statement still valid? And are we talking about the testnet or the mainnet? And he says, thanks for a clarification in advance.
Yeah, so 100% the goal is still to have Coordicide on mainnet in 2021. Our team is confident that that will happen. And if it doesn't happen, that I would consider that a major failure. So we are not going to let that happen. It's definitely 2021 is the last year the coordinator plays a role in the Iota project.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we have so many, right now, our primary focus is really on Chrysalis from the engineering perspective. And Chrysalis is obviously a roadmap that was also derived from Coordicide. So many of the components that will be in Coordicide will be in the Iota mainnet already today before Coordicide happens, right? So we are really building out this clear roadmap of transitioning towards this new future of Iota. And like just to what David said, it will definitely happen on the mainnet in 2021. And we'll have the official incentivized testnet in Q1. And from there on, we will start really thinking about how we can parallelize some of the testing and validation of the key components to make sure that Coordicide can happen as soon as possible, but also making sure that we are absolutely confident that nothing will go wrong. And that is obviously the role of the Iota Foundation here, really. Right. So right now, just to talk about sentiment right now, I think everybody's super excited about what's happening behind the scenes with the progress on Chrysalis and also with Coordicide.
This will kind of get you a chance to talk more about this, but Raphael Metal asks very broadly, give a brief description of your goals.
I think do you want to try?
Yeah, the most succinct summary is to really build the first distributed ledger that is permissionless, feeless, and is actually production ready. And we have a very clear vision behind this distributed ledger, which is the Internet of Things, and really serving or being the backbone of this machine economy. And where Iota is evolving from not just a protocol, but really towards a digital infrastructure layer so that anybody can depend on it. And our goal, our objective as a Iota Foundation is to make sure that this isn't just a vision, but that we really build and engineer a protocol that is able to meet the demands of the industry, and that we actually solve problems with what we've developed.
Yeah, no, I would definitely echo that. This is really all about bringing about the promise of DLT that we've all heard about ever since Bitcoin's incarnation, and doing it in a way that removes all the drawbacks of regular blockchain. So yeah, super excited about that. And then of course the next goal is to get it into all production ready systems in the world, essentially. To gain adoption.
Exactly. And I would also add, like, while others are really trying to build a faster horse by saying, hey, we reduce the transaction fees compared to Ethereum by that much, we are able to increase transaction throughput by that much. At the end of the day, you're just building a faster horse, but you're not really thinking about, hey, what does the adoption of our protocol actually look like? Because for one, technology is one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is really the adoption side. And I think what we do well is we combine both of them and get the feedback from the industry to make sure that what we are building is truly going to be adopted. And that is why, especially with the current roadmap that we have with Chrysalis and Cordyceps, that we are very confident that we'll be able to achieve this objective.
So two different users Martin Palarmas on YouTube and a different user on the CMC chats asked, what worries you the most and why at the moment in regards to Iota?
Oh, interesting and challenging question. Of course, when you're building such a big project as Iota and you're managing over 100 people day to day, there are a lot of obstacles that come up constantly. So I would say that you're always slightly in a state of worry subconsciously, but when we're talking about the big picture and the roadmap that we've laid out, I wouldn't say that any of us really worry that much. So to answer the question, I guess climate change worries me. There's nothing specific about the Iota roadmap that truly worries me.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with David that is primarily external factors that really worry us, because we've been through so much in our 5-6 year history. I think we've really learned a lot and built a resilient organization, I would say. So where we removed as much friction as possible and really tried to guide the team with the clear roadmap and strategy. So I think in terms of the execution side, we are really well on our path to execute, but obviously there's always these unknowns that are these external factors that could have an impact on our roadmap. Like, for example, with COVID, one thing that it clearly impacted was that our research team, for example, could no longer meet every month for their research summits, right? So that was sort of also a setback in that regard. But other than that, we are very confident for end of this year and for 2021. And as we're seeing with the PayPal announcement yesterday, I also really think that this entire space and the entire aura or perception around cryptocurrencies and so on and so forth is really starting to speed up. And I think that will be very exciting what's coming over the next few weeks for all of us.
There's actually a question in regards to that from Christian Zat on YouTube, who asks, with the recent PayPal announcement, those listed coins will get more exposure to the general population. What is being done regarding improving Iota awareness and exposure for the markets?
Yeah, just quickly on that, the most important part is Chrysalis, where we are removing the biggest pain points of Iota today, which is Winternit's one-time signatures, and which is not having something like UTXO, so also not reusable addresses and one-time signatures, right? That's sort of one of the biggest pain points, which especially exchanges had in integrating Iota. So with Chrysalis coming up by the end of the year, we are already talking with some of these exchanges and some of these service providers that they now really have no more excuses to not integrate Iota. And also with Paxos, PayPal, and so on, I definitely think that we will hold some discussions with them around integration.
Yeah, no, I would just echo everything that Dominik just said. It has really just been a problem that most exchanges do not really want to spend a lot of time listing coins, especially during the hype craze that has happened over the last years. It's just been easier for them to go for the low-hanging fruit, which is ERC20 tokens or Bitcoin clones. So yeah, up until now, because of the intricacies of the cryptography used in Iota, it has been a big challenge to really integrate Iota. And as soon as those are gone with Chrysalis version 2, I don't think there's any exchange that won't list Iota, because it will be so easy and they will only make money on it. So pure incentive for them.
There's a question here about something that you guys recently announced, Iota Access from TFMC, who asks, what is the adoption strategy of Iota Access? Maybe you can say what it is first in case people don't know.
Yeah, Dominik, do you want to?
Yeah, I can take that. So one of the core principles of our adoption strategy is to go into the market with the more product-centric focus now. We have the Iota ledger itself, which is really a platform, right? It's focused on doing transactional settlement as efficiently, as secure, and feeless as possible. And what we then have on top is really these modules that are extending the core of Iota. So for example, we have Iota Streams, which is secure and encrypted data streams, so that your sensor can emit data and utilize the Tangle to verify this data. Then we have identity, digital identities for machines and for humans, which will go live before the end of the year. And then now we also have Iota Access. And one of the main reasons why we are very excited about Iota Access is because it's really one of these fundamental building blocks that we believe the machine economy needs. And that is to have conditional access control. So being able to control who gets access to which device and to which device's resources, right? So you can, for example, you have a smart door lock and I can say, hey, today from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., this set of people, this set of identities has access to this office building. Or we could think about the sharing economy use case like those smart scooters. Now, instead of building it all on a centralized infrastructure where you need to store all of these access control policies on your AWS server or wherever, where if somebody gets access, they could give themselves access to your devices. We store it all decentralized in the Iota network. And as such, it's much more secure and it's also much cheaper to retain that infrastructure for that use case. So for example, a Lime scooter could now be leased out with Iota. And so you pay with Iota tokens and you get a security via Iota Access that somebody isn't tampering with the device and that you really have access to it. And I think already right now with all of the companies that we are speaking with, and they're all very excited about this future of Iota Access. And so we'll definitely see many more of these use cases, especially around this sharing economy launching over the next few months. And so I definitely think that by Q1, Q2 next year, we'll see some very exciting products being built with Iota Access.
Oh, lost my unmute button. Going into this adoption idea, someone named Tobias Misch asks, when will we see the Iota token the first time in use in a real-world application that pushes adoption?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, but it's very hard to answer because real-world use case, of course, there's already been numerous real-world use cases in a proof of concept or a minimum viable prototype stage. So that's already happened. In terms of mass, I think what he's referring to is like, when can I ride share with Iota tokens? And of course, that is impossible for us to give an exact date on because it's really all up to the external entities. But what we can say is that the technology will be ready for that to be integrated at a large scale in 2021. Actually, already after Chrysalis at the end of this year, there is no actual technical barriers for adoption of the token.
Let's see. Let's go on to maybe something a little bit more technical, sharding. So User on YouTube asks, sharding has been claimed to be no problem at all by David. How
What?
far? Okay.
I need a source on that. But okay, continue. What is the question?
I guess he's meaning, how far ahead are you with sharding, since it's clear that it's not a problem for David?
Okay, yeah. So I have no idea where he's quote mining that from, but there are some properties of the Tangle that makes sharding more organic, I would say, comparatively to a blockchain. And our research team is already deep into sharding research. And this is, of course, the next phase after Corticide. So given that we've already mapped out pretty much all of Corticide on a research level, we're now using our resources in that department to focus on the next step, which is sharding. There are undoubtedly some problems to overcome. It's not like we have a ready sharding solution, but yeah, I don't see a huge blocker. It's not like a hard problem that we don't conceive of solving, but I don't think I've ever said that it's like a easy thing.
And I mean, because of the properties of the Iota Tangle, sharding isn't really a big issue until 2022, 2023, when we really have so many use cases and so many companies building on top of Iota, right? So we definitely have time to get that right. Unlike other projects like Ethereum and so on, where it's really sort of a do or die moment in that regard, else projects are moving away from Ethereum towards other protocols. And I think with Chrysalis already we can achieve more than 1,000 TPS, and then with Corticide, the aim is definitely to aim higher in that regard. So,
okay.
Yeah,
I just saw that someone posted that the source was in a meeting of the minds I did with Terry Shane. Yeah, so essentially just summarize what both me and Dominic said, that we don't believe it to be a big problem, but of course it will take some time.
Nothing's easy.
Yeah, no, nothing worth doing is easy.
I have two kind of questions, but the first one goes off what you just said about TPS. Someone from our CoinMarketCap chats, thank you for using that, by the way, this is user 1869511, asks, do you think Iota may struggle with TPS if it gets adopted by the industry? What is the current stable TPS Iota can handle, and what is expected for Iota 1.5, 2.0, and 3.0 TPS?
Yeah, so there's a few different questions nested in there. So in terms of the first one, when we get large scale adoption, do we think that it will be a problem that the network will become congested? And the way that the reputation system in Iota works for nodes, we have mechanisms in place that should prevent such a congestion that you see in blockchain from happening. However, long term, as we just touched upon with sharding, if you imagine the entire Internet of Things and Web 3.0 applications in some way interfacing with Iota, then of course you need millions and millions and millions of transactions. And for that, you definitely do need sharding. And what was the other part of that question?
It was, what is expected for Iota 1.5, 2.0, and 3.0 transaction per second? I think you kind of answered it.
Yeah, like it's very hard to say like an exact, for instance, with Corticide, we know that the transaction will go up, but we can't say, okay, will it be 1,500? Will it be 1,000 transactions? Or I mean, 10,000 transactions per second? That gets into dangerous territory that needs a lot of caveats attached to it. So I'll refrain from saying an exact TPS, but it will definitely go up.
So, okay. Here's one from Eric Waldenmeyer. Will we see the merger of all the different parts, access, identity, smart contracts, streams, color tokens, etc., after the 2.0 mainnet release or before?
So
what does he mean with merger?
I will take a first stab at it. So I think what he's kind of thinking that after Corticide, all these other components we've built will just magically merge. And I would just say that they can already be merged. You can already use, as Dominic used in the use case of sharing economy, you can use identities, you can use streams, and you can use access for different parts of that product. And that is what we really need in order for those to work in a symbiosis. There's not like a plan from the Iota Foundation side to try to merge all these things into one. That is something that will evolve organically over time, that you need secure identity, you need secure data streams, you need access control, and you need payments. And when you have such a use case, that's when they are merging together, if I understood the question correctly.
Yeah, and I mean, the beauty of what we are doing is really that we have these modules that are really products, right? And each product can live on its own and serves a specific purpose. We have identity, we have data streams, we have access, and we have smart contracts. And all of those really rely on the Iota ledger for certain purposes, right? For example, for anchoring transactions, for micropayments, and so on. And all of those products will really help with the adoption of the Iota protocol itself for the industry. And so I wouldn't say that they will be merged, but right now the strategy is that all of those are out there and you can play around with them. And with Chrysalis, they will really go into beta, and then we'll work to make them really production ready products by Q1, Q2 next year. So everything is sort of coming together like this big puzzle piece in Iota, which is why it's so exciting right now.
Here's a bit of a question that's like kind of more global. This is from user 1904342 on the CMC chat. We're hearing more and more about nationalized e-currencies such as the Swedish e-krona. Could these be based on the Iota protocol? And if yes, how would these work next to the Iota token?
Yeah, very interesting question with a lot of ambiguous answers. And the reason for that is that it all depends on the regulatory framework that ends up becoming de facto in the different countries. So we know that EU is currently looking very hard at stable coins and trying to regulate them. And for us, we just have to sit back, wait for their input, try to push back on them again with our insights. But we have been in dialogue with Sveriges Riksbank back in 2017. We've been in dialogue with other central banks in Europe as well as other places. And there's definitely interest in the technology. How that interfaces with the token is hard to say, but in order to run such a gigantic system, you would, at least in the Iota protocol, you would need to involve the token at least for mana generation. But yeah, this is an open topic and we're still in active dialogue with some of them. I know that there are some projects that are exploring maybe using the Iota DLT. But again, this is a long-term project. These are moving very slow, I would say.
And I would just add to that, like from a philosophical point of view, I think that cryptocurrencies and central bank digital currencies will coexist for the future because they also serve very different purposes. And over the next few years, cryptocurrencies will really be much more, we'll see a lot of growth because especially companies realize that this censorship resistance and this access to this whole new economy, which is based on smart contracts and machine-to-machine payments and so on and so forth, is really core to their business model of the future. And so that's why they also need to be utilizing both of them, right? And we are obviously thinking about how we can be the backbone of these use cases and how the Iota protocol will be utilized in that.
So a few people have asked about this, about Iota's work on an industrial Internet of Things project in Japan. Can you elaborate about that? That's what a few people have asked.
I mean, we can probably just say that people should be a little patient, but we're definitely doing something in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have many projects, and when they are ready, they will be announced, I guess.
Yeah, patience.
Yeah.
To go off of that, a few people have also asked both what are the most important partnerships of the Iota Foundation right now, and then are there more Asian partnerships in Asia? A few people have asked about your Asian partnerships.
Yeah, so I would be very careful in terms of trying to rank this partner is more important than the other partner, so on and so forth. But for us, we see any real company that is trying to build something, whether it's a startup or a huge conglomerate, as an important partner, of course. But just to wing it, I would say the ones that are really trying to deploy this in the real world, rather than just toying around with some proof of concepts. Those are the ones that are, of course, the most important for Iota. And second to that is the open source organizations and the standardization organizations that we are working with. They are, of course, long-term very important for the global adoption of Iota. And as for Asia, yeah, certainly. And we've seen this before. It's no secret that we have been working in Taiwan, etc. So we're definitely eyeing Asia as a very important place for adoption of Iota.
There's definitely time for a few more questions. Here's one from on YouTube, someone whose name is my wife's son. Are you still funding smart refugee cities?
What the fuck? Okay, so this has to be explained. This is just a random meme from 4chan. There was way back in 2015, 2016, we were exploring how DLT might be used for identity for refugees that don't have identity. It's a huge problem for people that have to flee war or drought-ridden regions as a consequence of climate change, that these people don't, they can't even prove that they exist. So they can't get loans, they can't do any of these things. And for some reason, you know 4chan, you know how it works. Helping refugees meant that we were bad guys for some reason. But I've never funded a refugee camp.
Sorry, not the answer I expected. I didn't fully think about the question.
No worry, it's just 4chan leaking over.
Here's another one. So Iota was originally built for Internet of Things technology. Is that still the focus, or has that changed with all of the recent updates?
No, it's certainly still the main focal point of the Iota project, and especially from the Iota Foundation side. It's in our mandate to create this protocol for the Internet of Things. However, I think where people get confused is that a lot of people think of Internet of Things as this kind of disconnected, quite ironically, the thing that isn't really relevant to them and not really relevant to the average use cases. But what I would say is that when we talk about Internet of Everything, it's literally everything in your life, including essentially your home, but also what you're doing on your computer in terms of having identity there, that you can manage other things around the world. That is Internet of Things. So I would rather say that the vision has definitely not changed, and we're not deviating from it. I would say that it's just been more expanded because the Iota protocol is so powerful that it can also be used in use cases that doesn't fall under the traditional definition of Internet of Things.
And I would just add to that, I think that right now our vision is much more tangible than it's ever been. And we truly, like, we were born out of the Internet of Things, and we are now closer than ever to really delivering on this vision of being this backbone for this machine economy. And I think with everything that we have in the pipeline, with the changes that we're making to the core protocol, with the products that we're building on top, and with the partnerships that we have with large industrial companies, we're truly achieving this vision of the Internet of Things and making it more autonomous, and also bringing more trust to it with our core protocol. So I think it's very exciting, and nothing has really changed in that regard. Just rather it expanded, like David mentioned, where we realized that this digital infrastructure layer that we're building, it's great for the machine economy, but it can also be utilized for other use cases, and making Iota all the more important in that regard.
So we have time for about 2 more questions. I'll pick this one from the Wine Science commentary on YouTube, who asked, when will Chrysalis Part 2 be on the testnet?
So right now, the testnet was, I think it will launch over the next 2-3 weeks. Like, we already have an internal testnet where we are testing it all out and trying out the different building blocks. But we want to launch it as soon as possible, and then also think about which kind of incentives we can give to people who are helping us really stress test the entire system. So I think over the next 2-3 weeks, we'll see it coming out.
All right, then someone just asked, I think, a really good final question. What does Iota enable for Internet of Things that gives it a major advantage over other protocols?
Yeah.
It's like an ad.
Yeah, so I think both of us can just take a stab at this. So I think that Iota enables that other protocols in this space does not enable is scale and having no fees. That is the big takeaway that is important for the Internet of Things use cases. when you have fees on transactions, you essentially prohibit so many different use cases. There is no real-time payments. There is fractional ownership even becomes complicated if you want real-time dividends. Or pretty much all interesting use cases get killed by fees. And of course, scalability is kind of tied in with that.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important differences between us and other protocols is that we are not just trying to build a faster horse, not just trying to build fancy technology, but really are trying to create technology that will be embedded in the real world, right? Real industrial use cases with real companies. And many of the other projects in this space, they're just really too stuck in the crypto sphere, I would say. And so they really don't know how to work with large companies or which kind of use cases make sense. So that's why every other new protocol that is launching right now is trying to jump on the DeFi hype train simply because they have nothing else exciting going on about them. And we believe that we are really here to solve fundamental problems that industry sees. And that is why the industry is also coming to us. And that's why we will be adopted as the leading protocol for the Internet of Things and for machine-to-machine payments.
Yeah, and just one last thought from my side on that is also, as Dominik said, they're building a faster horse, and the way they're doing it is very stupid in my opinion, because you see this with all the speculation that is happening on different blockchains. They end up having to go to second layer. And we instead turn that on its head, and we put smart contracts, access, streams, etc., the applications on the second layer, whereas the source of truth, which is what the Iota tangle is for, remains on the first level. So I would say that in order for these other projects to succeed, they would almost have to reinvent Iota from scratch. So that's the big differentiator between us and a lot of the other projects, or all of the other projects.
All right. I think on a high note, we can end. It's been about 30 minutes. We've asked questions ranging from 4chan trolls to real Iota technological developments. Thanks for joining us. I think that we got some good information out there.
Yeah, and thanks for having us. Always happy to come back.
Yeah, thank you, everybody who participated, and make sure to join the Iota Discord and participate in the community to watch all the excitement happen in real time.
Indeed. Okay.
All right. Signing off.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.